Do nothing, stay and fight, or leave. The choice is yours. Women Talking was written and directed by Sarah Polley, who's done films such as Away From Her, Take This Waltz, and she was also Anna from the Dawn of the Dead remake back in 2004. Yes, the main lead from the Dawn of the Dead remake, where all the infected were down with the sickness, has proven herself to be a very accomplished writer and director, and in this case, she decided to base this material on a book by Miriam Toews. I hope I pronounced that name right. And that book actually was based in reality because in 2010, in an ultra-conservative, ultra-religious, nutty Mennonite community in Bolivia, a bunch of women decided they've had enough of being abused in every possible goddamn way and said, enough's enough. It's time for a change. Look out. We're going to go out and, go down the only road we've ever known, and then we're going to drift off along, but we won't be alone. They're going to basically go out and make their own goddamn community. Their own community where they can praise God, but they don't have to worry about men basically abusing them so much. Good grief. Just the implication of so many things that these women went through. This is a deep, deep subject. This is a deep well of just controversy and insanity, and the fact that this is based on something that happened in 2010, the fact that communities like this ever existed but still exist now, Jesus, there were some deep, disturbing moments just based on the dialogue alone and just on the inflections and the acting. And speaking of the acting, very, very solid cast here. Jessie Buckley, who was in Men, ha, 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 her. She was great. She was great in this as well. Rooney Mara, who was great in Nightmare Alley and has been great in a number of other things. Claire Foy, who is also very good. Judith Ivy, it's really impossible to actually tell with the way it's spelled. Ben Whishaw, and also Frances McDormand. And also I do want to give a shout to Kate Hallett, who plays Asha. If you look at the name, you actually have to see how it's pronounced in the movie, and also August Winter. And in this community, basically the women are just treated like dirt. I mean, they're treated like you have to obey the husbands. The husbands can do whatever they want to, literally anything they want. These women have had enough. A lot of this film is basically the women talking about all the things they've experienced. We see some flashbacks. We get some visions of how various people have gone down certain roads. Some people have left the community to go out and get supplies and such. But any of the women that have, they talk about their experiences, old and young alike. They basically have to decide whether they do nothing and forgive their attackers and this kind of stuff and hope it never happens again, or they stay and fight, and some have decided to fight back because they've had enough, or they leave and start their own community. And yeah, there's some narration from Asha talking about, this story ends before you were born, talking about possible future generations of this particular woman community that is going to do their best to educate men and also just be educated themselves, because that's the thing about Mennonite communities like this, or any communities that are like this. These people are not allowed to be educated, and by these people, I mean the women. It's really goddamn disgusting that this shit still happens, that this shit ever happened, to be perfectly honest. The thing is about the movie is it's basically a stage play put on film. Now, that is kind of where the film falters. Now, I want to say the acting is really good. It does capture, just centering right on the actors, the pain that they have gone through. Emotional, physical, spiritual, because many are, being tugged at as far as in two directions, with wanting to leave and wanting to enter the kingdom of heaven, because it's so ingrained in their skull that if they don't forgive the man, that they aren't just good, God-fearing Christian women in this community, being abused regardless, they have to suffer to get into the kingdom of heaven. That's not how it works. That's not actually how it works at all. It's a storybook. Just want to say that right now. If you hate religion, you are probably going to enjoy some of the things that people say about, religion in this, if you're like me. And if you love religion, you might not appreciate how things are depicted, but let's be perfectly honest. People will take any storybook and twist it to justify their bigotry and their hatred. There isn't a lot really to spoil in this, because there are a few neat little things that go on with the characters. There are certain kids that are doing better than others, certain girls that have come of age, so to speak, that have been abused, and a lot of women either have miscarried or are carrying children that they're products of are. I'm not going to say the word here. Please don't say it in the comments. And just the amount of shit that these women have went through. Like, it's really, really deep and disturbing to think about. Just the fact that it's based on something, legit. And hell, the guys even use certain, things, certain means to get what they want out of the women, knock them out and such. And it really just centers on the women. We do get some of the guys in there. There is August, played by Ben Whishaw, who left, went to university, comes back to educate the boys, but also cares for Anna, Rooney Mara. And I mean, look at Rooney Mara. How could you not care for her? She's lovely. But in all seriousness, she actually plays a pretty down-to-earth character. Ironic, considering that, everybody's literally on that earth. Nobody is floating. There's no floating Mennonite community, at least not until the device is complete. But what ends up happening is we find out that the women come down to these decisions. They decide they're not going to do nothing. Okay, I'm just going to spoil it right there. But they decide to stay and fight or leave. And as they they struggle with all this stuff. They find out there are reasons to stay. There are reasons to leave. There's fears of going out on their own. And it does deal with the stuff pretty well. It does end up being, and I'm sorry to say this, not that I'm trying to downplay the subject or downplay the acting, it does end up being at times a little bit boring. At times it ends up being aggressively boring, which unfortunately puts it away from being one of the best pictures, in my opinion, even though, as of this recording, it is currently up for a Best Picture nomination at the Oscars. And by the time you watch this, it might have won Best Picture at the Oscar. I hope not, because I want Everything Everywhere All at Once to win. But nevertheless, Women Talking does live up to the name. It is a lot of women talking about things that they are just fed up with, and it ends up actually being something pretty well done. Frances McDormand doesn't get a ton of screen time, or at least as much as I would like, but then again, it does allow for Rooney, Jesse, and Claire to really sink their teeth into these roles. And it ends up being something pretty well acted and pretty well done, and it is about 95 minutes, so it's really not all that long. Stick with it, and you enjoy the acting, and you can enjoy how things play out, but it does end up just being a lot of stage play, a lot of talking and such. So if you're not into watching something that's more about a deep narrative with good acting, the movie may not be for you. I'm going to get into spoilers. The spoilers honestly will not take very long, just so you know. This is available on Amazon Prime currently as of this recording for the next couple days, but then it'll probably be available to rent for a few bucks. Give it a shot. Anyway, 3, 2, 1, and spoilers. Okay, certain people stay, certain people go. August is going to stay because he has to educate the boys. Certain young boys go with the women because they want to help educate them, and also they're part of the respective families. They load up all these wagons and decide to take them and everything. And apparently this Mennonite community had about 50 million wagons because they had a lot of goddamn wagons and carriages that they were taking. And at one point, a couple characters get beat up and abused. Like Jesse Buckley's character gets beat up. And there are a few, disturbing moments, like the implication of being Ard just because, you happen to own this person. You don't do that with somebody you love, but that's the thing. People in the Mennonite community actually don't generally love who they're with. They have to be with them because, oh yeah, it's a freaking ridiculous-ass, concept and everything. So that's pretty much it. They end up leaving. That's what they end up doing, essentially. There's not a whole lot to it otherwise. Watch for the characters, enjoy the stuff, and it gets a B+. It is well acted and everything, and I will give it props for how it's filmed, how it's written, how it's acted. It doesn't get an A+ from me because I end up being at times bored by the presentation, but that doesn't mean this movie's bad at all. If you are a victim or have been a victim of assault such as this, Mennonite community or otherwise, I truly feel for you, and I can only imagine that it would be tough just to hear about this stuff. So, anyway, B+. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.